It was a bright Monday morning at Greenfield Elementary School. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and all the students were excited. Today was Career Day, a special day when every student would stand in front of the class and talk about their parents' jobs. The classroom was filled with colorful posters, balloons, and smiles. The teacher, Miss Parker, stood at the front with a notebook in her hand. "All right, children," she said cheerfully, "let's begin." One by one, the students walked to the front. Tommy said his dad was a firefighter. Sarah said her mom was a nurse. Everyone clapped after each child spoke. The room was full of excitement and dreams. Then it was Maya's turn. Maya was an 8-year-old girl with curly black hair and big brown eyes. She was quiet, kind, and always polite. She stood up slowly, holding a small photo in her hand. She walked to the front of the class and looked at her classmates. Her heart was beating fast, but she smiled bravely. "My name is Maya," she began, "and my dad is a helicopter pilot." For a moment, the class went silent. Then, someone at the back giggled. Another child whispered, "A helicopter pilot? Seriously?" Miss Parker raised her eyebrows. She smiled, but not a kind smile. It was the kind of smile people give when they don't believe you. She crossed her arms and said, "That's a big job, Maya. Are you sure?" Maya nodded. "Yes, ma'am. He flies helicopters. He wears a uniform and—" Miss Parker interrupted. "Sweetheart, maybe you meant he fixes helicopters." The class started to laugh. Maya's smile faded. "No," she said quietly. "He flies them. He even took a picture with me before school." She held up the photo, but Miss Parker didn't look. Instead, she turned to another teacher and whispered, "Kids these days love to make up stories." Maya's hands began to shake. She quickly put the photo back into her pocket and returned to her seat. Her face was red and her eyes were full of tears. The other kids were still laughing. One boy leaned over and said, "Your dad probably works at a car wash." Maya looked away. She didn't say anything. She just stared out the window, wishing she had never spoken. At that moment, something changed inside her. She had always been proud of her father. She loved watching him in his pilot uniform, hearing his stories, and playing with toy helicopters at home. But now, in front of the whole class, she felt small, like her words didn't matter. Miss Parker moved on quickly. "All right, next student." As the day went on, no one asked Maya anything about her dad. It was like her story had been erased, like it didn't matter. When the bell rang, Maya walked home slowly. She didn't run or laugh like the other kids. She kept her head down. At home, her dad was waiting at the door. He was tall, strong, and always smiling when he saw her. He wore a gray t-shirt with a small helicopter badge on it. "Hey, princess," he said, picking her up. "How was school?" Maya forced a smile. It was okay. He looked at her carefully. "Just okay?" She nodded and hugged him tight. That night, Maya sat on her bed holding the photo she had taken to school. It showed her and her dad standing next to a big green helicopter. They were both smiling. Her dad's hand was resting proudly on her shoulder. She stared at the photo and whispered, "Why didn't they believe me?" She opened her notebook and wrote something on a small piece of paper. Then she folded it and placed it inside her school bag. The note said, "I wish someone would believe me." She didn't know her dad would find that note the next day. And she didn't know that very soon, the sky itself would speak the truth. The next morning, Maya woke up quietly. Her alarm rang, but she didn't smile like she usually did. She just sat on her bed, holding her pillow. Normally, she would rush to the kitchen to see what breakfast her dad had made. But today, her heart felt heavy. In the kitchen, her dad, Mr. Thompson, was flipping pancakes. He had already packed her lunch and placed a small note inside with a smiley face that read, "Fly high today, my little star." He loved making her smile. When Maya walked in, he greeted her with the usual warmth. "Good morning, princess," he said, handing her a glass of orange juice. "Morning, Daddy," Maya said softly. He noticed her voice was low, her energy missing. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," she replied quickly and looked away. Mr. Thompson watched her for a second. He had seen that look before, When she lost her first race in school, when her pet hamster died, it was the look of a heavy heart. But he didn't want to push her. On the way to school, Maya sat quietly in the car. Her dad played soft music, trying to lighten the mood. "Remember," he said as they reached the school gate, "be proud. No matter what anyone says." Maya nodded and walked in. But as soon as she entered the classroom, the same whispers began. "There's the helicopter girl." Liar. Her dad probably delivers pizza. Maya kept walking. She didn't make eye contact with anyone. At her desk, she opened her notebook and began to draw. She didn't want to talk to anyone. She just wanted to escape into her world of pictures. She drew a big green helicopter flying in the sky. Inside the window was a small girl with a huge smile, and next to her, her dad in a pilot suit, waving. Miss Parker walked by and looked at the drawing. She raised her eyebrows. "Still drawing helicopters?" she asked with a fake smile. Maya looked up and nodded. Miss Parker chuckled. "You know, Maya, it's okay to imagine, but it's also important to be honest." Maya's eyes began to water again. Just then, a classmate, Josh, reached over and snatched the drawing from her desk. "Let me see this magic helicopter," he laughed. Before Maya could grab it back, he tore it in half. The classroom burst into giggles. Maya couldn't take it anymore. She ran out of the classroom and straight to the bathroom. She locked herself in a stall and cried. Her body shook, her voice silent, but her tears loud enough for anyone standing outside. Inside her bag, she pulled out the note she had written last night and held it close to her chest. "I wish someone would believe me." At lunchtime, she didn't sit with anyone. She sat under a tree alone, picking at her food. The small note stayed hidden in her lunchbox, right next to the one her dad had written. She read both notes again and again. 2 notes, 2 worlds, one full of love, one full of doubt. That evening when she returned home, she placed her bag on the couch and went straight to her room. She didn't want to talk. She didn't want to eat. She just wanted to forget the day. Mr. Thompson came in later, quietly unpacking her bag to check if she finished lunch. He opened the lunchbox. The food was untouched. And then he saw the note. Not the one he wrote, but the one Maya had written. "I wish someone would believe me." He read it twice, then a third time. He stood there, completely still. His eyes darkened, his jaw tightened. Something had broken, not just in Maya, but in him too. He walked to his room, sat on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. Then he picked up his phone. "Hey, it's me," he said calmly. "Yeah, I need a favor, a big one." There was a pause. "No, I'm not joking. It's time they knew who I am, and who my daughter is." He hung up. Outside Maya's room, he looked at her door for a long time. He whispered, "They won't laugh at you again, baby girl, I promise." That night, Maya slept early. She didn't feel like watching cartoons or playing with her toys. Her pillow was damp with tears, but she didn't tell anyone. She just wanted the day to end. On the other side of the house, her dad, Mr. Thompson, sat silently in the living room. The lights were off. The only sound was the ticking of the wall clock. He held the small note in his hand. The words kept repeating in his mind. "I wish someone would believe me." He had always taught Maya to be proud of who she was, proud of her truth. But now, someone had made her question it. Someone had made her feel small. And that someone was a teacher, a person who was supposed to support children, not break their spirit. Mr. Thompson opened a drawer and pulled out a small black box. Inside was his pilot badge, the one he received after completing flight school. Next to it was a photo of him standing beside a helicopter, in full gear, smiling. He looked at it for a long time, then made another call. "Hey, Commander, this is Thompson. Can I borrow her for a few hours tomorrow morning?" There was a pause on the other end, then a laugh. "You serious?" the voice asked. Mr. Thompson smiled. "Dead serious." "All right," the voice replied. "We'll clear the airspace for you." Mr. Thompson ended the call and looked up at the ceiling. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "they'll all believe her." The next morning, Maya woke up slowly. She had no excitement in her heart. She got dressed without a smile and didn't even touch her breakfast. Her dad placed her lunchbox in her bag and kissed her forehead. "Today will be better," he said. She nodded, but didn't believe him. At school, things were the same. Whispers, giggles, looks. When Maya entered the classroom, she heard someone say, "Look, the pilot girl is back." Miss Parker was writing something on the board and didn't even glance at Maya. Maya sat down quietly and began drawing again. Another helicopter, but this time with dark clouds around it. The little girl inside looked scared, not happy. Miss Parker walked past her and gave a small sigh. "You're still pretending, Maya?" she asked. Maya didn't answer. Miss Parker shook her head. "It's good to dream, but it's better to be honest, dear." Maya's hand stopped moving. Her heart sank even deeper. The morning dragged on. Math, English, science. Nothing felt right. At recess, Maya didn't eat. She just sat in a corner of the playground, staring at the sky. She watched a bird fly high above the school. "I wish I could fly away too," she thought. Suddenly, a low rumbling sound filled the air. It was faint at first, like distant thunder. Students looked up. Teachers stopped mid-sentence. The sound grew louder and louder, like something powerful was moving through the sky. Windows rattled. Dust floated in the air. Children ran to the windows. "What's that noise?" One student shouted. "I think it's a helicopter," another yelled. Inside the classroom, Miss Parker frowned. "Everyone calm down," she said, but she too was curious now. The sound wasn't stopping. It was getting closer. A voice came over the school speakers. It was the principal. "All classes, please bring your students to the playground immediately." Miss Parker looked confused, but followed the instruction. She led her class outside, still trying to act like nothing special was happening. The whole school gathered on the field. Students, teachers, even office staff. And then, it appeared. A giant military-style helicopter came into view above the school. It was sleek, strong, and loud. The blades cut through the sky like thunder. Everyone looked up, frozen in place. Ms. Parker gasped. That's a real helicopter." The helicopter hovered for a moment, then slowly began to descend, right into the center of the schoolyard. Children screamed in amazement. Phones were out. Pictures were being taken. Even some teachers looked like excited kids. The helicopter landed gently. The blade slowed, the dust settled. Everyone waited. The door opened, and out stepped Mr. Thompson. Wearing his full pilot uniform, helmet in hand, boots covered in dust, he looked like a hero from a movie. For a moment, no one said a word. Then one student shouted, "That's Maya's dad." Everyone turned to Maya. She stood there, eyes wide, hands over her mouth. She couldn't believe it. Her dad walked straight toward her, smiling proudly. He knelt down and said, "Told you I'd make them believe, didn't I?" Maya burst into tears, but this time they were tears of joy. He stood up, turned to the crowd, and said, "Someone here didn't believe my daughter when she said her father was a pilot, so I thought I'd stop by and show you myself." Miss Parker stood frozen, her mouth open, eyes wide in shock. She had no words. None at all. For a long moment, no one said a word. The giant helicopter stood behind Mr. Thompson like a mountain of truth, shining in the morning sun. The schoolyard was quiet. Even the birds had stopped singing. Maya stood beside her father, still trying to believe what had just happened. A few hours ago, she was sitting alone under a tree, feeling broken. Now the whole school was looking at her with wide eyes. Children began whispering. She wasn't lying. Her dad really is a pilot. "I can't believe it." Some kids even clapped. Maya looked at the ground, feeling shy. But inside, something had changed. A small light had turned back on in her heart. Then the crowd began to part. Slowly, Miss Parker walked toward them. Her face had lost its color. Her proud smile from yesterday was gone. She looked like someone who had just realized they made a huge mistake. She stopped in front of Mr. Thompson and Maya, eyes downcast. "Mr. Thompson," she said quietly, I didn't know. Mr. Thompson folded his arms. Didn't know what? That my daughter was telling the truth. Ms. Parker looked embarrassed. I thought she was imagining things. You know how kids are. He took a deep breath. Yes, kids imagine things. But your job is to guide them, not laugh at them. You're supposed to protect their dreams, not destroy them. Ms. Parker looked at Maya. I'm very sorry, Maya. I should have believed you. Maya didn't say anything. She just looked at her father, then back at the teacher. Mr. Thompson bent down to Maya's level and said softly, You don't need anyone's approval to know who you are. You spoke your truth, and that's what matters. Maya nodded slowly. Ms. Parker cleared her throat and turned to the students. Her voice shook as she spoke. Class, I owe Maya a big apology. I laughed at something she was proud of. That was wrong of me. I hope we can all learn something today. Never judge someone because of how they look or what you think you know. A few students looked down guilty. Some nodded. Just then, the principal arrived. I just got the news, she said, walking quickly. A real pilot, landing at our school? This is amazing. Mr. Thompson smiled and shook her hand. Would you like to say something to the students? The principal asked him. He looked at Maya and nodded. Mr. Thompson stepped forward. All eyes were on him. I didn't come here to show off, he began. I came because someone made my daughter feel small for speaking the truth. He pointed to the helicopter. I fly this machine almost every day. I protect people, I rescue people, and I fly into storms when others are running away. But none of that is as important as what I'm doing right now, standing up for my child. He paused, looking around. Let me tell you all something important. You don't have to be loud to be brave. You don't have to shout to be strong. Sometimes, the quietest voice in the room is telling the biggest truth. Children clapped. Teachers nodded. Even the janitor smiled. Maya stood straighter now, her shoulders no longer heavy with shame. Then the principal added, Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And Maya, we're all very proud of you. After the assembly, students gathered around Maya. Some wanted to take pictures with her. Some just said sorry. Even Josh, the boy who had torn her drawing, came forward. I was wrong, he said, kicking the ground nervously. Your drawing was awesome. Can you maybe draw one for me? Maya smiled. Okay. For the first time in days, her heart felt light again. She looked up at the sky, where the blades of the helicopter still spun gently. Her dream was no longer just a dream. It was her truth, and now, the whole world had seen it. The next morning, Maya woke up before her alarm. The sun was shining through her window, and for the first time in days, she was smiling before even getting out of bed. She opened her closet and carefully picked out her favorite yellow dress, the one with small white airplanes on it. She had been saving it for a special day. Today is special, she whispered to herself. Downstairs, Mr. Thompson was already in the kitchen, making breakfast. Morning, Captain Maya, he said with a wink. Morning, Pilot Dad, she giggled. They shared a high five, and he handed her a warm pancake shaped like a tiny helicopter. Fuel for future pilots, he said. She laughed harder this time, a real laugh, not the quiet ones she had been giving all week. At school, something had changed. As she walked through the gates, people looked at her differently. Not with mocking smiles, but with respect. Hey Maya, one student said, your dad is so cool. Are you going to fly helicopters too someday? Another asked. Even the school secretary gave her a big smile and said, You're our little star now. Maya smiled politely, but she didn't get proud or loud. She just walked quietly to her classroom, feeling stronger than she ever had before. In class, Miss Parker greeted her kindly. Good morning, Maya, she said gently. I left something on your desk. Maya looked down and saw a clean new notebook with her name on it. The cover had a helicopter drawn on it, and inside, the first page had a short note. Never stop dreaming. You are already flying. Miss Parker had signed it. Maya looked up, surprised. Thank you, miss, she said. I hope this helps you draw more of your beautiful helicopters, Miss Parker added. During art period, Maya took out her colored pencils and began to draw again. This time, Her picture showed a little girl standing beside a big helicopter. But now, the little girl was wearing a pilot suit, just like her dad. She drew a big smile on her face and added the words at the top, "I believe in me." Josh, the boy who used to tease her, looked over and said, "That's awesome, Maya. Can I color the sky?" She nodded. "Sure." Together, they worked on the drawing. For the first time, Maya felt like she truly belonged. Later that day, the principal made an announcement. "Attention, students. We have a very special event coming next week, Career Day. We've invited parents from many jobs to speak to the school. And guess what?" There was a dramatic pause. "We are excited to welcome Mr. Thompson, Maya's father, who will be landing his helicopter again and giving a talk about what it's like to be a real pilot." The room exploded in cheers. Maya's classmates looked at her in awe. "You're so lucky," one girl said. "I wish my dad flew a helicopter," another said. Maya smiled. But this time, her smile wasn't because others were impressed. It was because she was proud of her dad, proud of herself, and proud of the truth she never gave up on. That night, Maya sat on her bed, writing in her new notebook. She wrote, "Sometimes people won't believe you, but that doesn't mean you stop believing in yourself. I'm Maya. I'm a pilot's daughter. And one day I'll be a pilot too." She closed the notebook and looked out the window. The stars were shining. And somewhere high in the sky, a helicopter passed by, just a tiny shape with blinking lights. Maya waved. She didn't know if it was her dad or another pilot, but she did know one thing. She had found her wings. The whole school was talking about Career Day. Students were excited to meet doctors, firefighters, engineers, and most of all, Maya's dad, the pilot who had landed a real helicopter in the schoolyard. For Maya, it felt like a dream coming true. Every day, more students came to her and asked questions. "Will your dad let us sit in the helicopter? Can we touch the controls? Will you give a speech too?" Maya was nervous about that last question. She wasn't sure if she wanted to speak in front of the school. She still remembered how it felt to be laughed at. What if she said the wrong words? What if she froze? Her dad noticed her silence that night. "You okay, Captain?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "They want me to say something on Career Day, but what if I mess up?" Mr. Thompson smiled. "Do you know what I do when I'm nervous before flying?" "What?" "I check everything twice. Then, I remember why I'm flying. Not for fun, but for people who need me." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not speaking for them, Maya. You're speaking for yourself. For the little girl who never gave up." The next day at school, the clouds were dark. Rain was in the forecast. The principal told everyone, "If it rains, we may have to cancel the helicopter landing. The field will be too muddy." Maya's heart sank. What if the weather ruins everything? She thought. By the time she got home, the news was even worse. Her dad got a call. He was being called away for a surprise mission the day before Career Day. "I might not make it in time," he said. "They need me on base early." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "But you promised." Mr. Thompson knelt down. "I know, sweetie, and I'll do everything I can to get back, but sometimes duty comes first." That night, Maya sat quietly in her room. Her notebook lay open in front of her, but she didn't feel like drawing. The rain tapped against the window. She looked at the empty sky and whispered, "Please don't take my dream away." The next morning, Career Day began. Parents came in with smiles and stories. The classroom walls were decorated with posters, balloons, and drawings. Maya stood at the back of the room, looking out the window again and again. No sign of her dad. The last speaker was scheduled for 11 o'clock am. It was 10:50 now. The principal looked at her watch and spoke into the microphone. "We may have to cancel the helicopter part, everyone. It seems our special guest is unable to make it." Maya's heart dropped. But just then, whop, 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 whop. A faint sound rose in the distance, slow and deep, growing louder every second. Every student turned toward the window. Maya's eyes lit up. That sound. Outside, the clouds were still gray, but the rain had stopped. The sound grew louder. L-U-U-P, 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 L-U-U-P. Then, through the foggy sky, a shape appeared. The helicopter. It pushed through the clouds like a hero returning from battle. Children screamed with joy. He made it. He's here. Maya ran out of the classroom, tears running down her face. But this time, they were happy ones. The helicopter landed right in the center of the muddy field. The blades spun down slowly. And then, through the mist, Mr. Thompson stepped out, wearing his flight suit, boots wet with rain, and a giant smile on his face. Maya ran into his arms. "You came. I told you I'd fly through any storm for you," he whispered. The whole school watched as Maya and her dad walked to the front of the stage together. Mr. Thompson gave a short speech about flying, courage, and never giving up. Then the principal handed Maya the microphone. Her hands shook a little. She looked at the crowd, looked at her dad, then said, "Last week, I was scared to speak. I thought I wasn't important. But I learned something. Your voice matters. Even if you're small, even if no one believes you. I believe my dad was a hero. And today, I believe I'm one too." The room erupted in cheers. Even teachers wiped away tears. Maya stood tall on that stage, holding the microphone with both hands. Not as the quiet girl who used to hide her drawings, but as the brave heart who inspired an entire school.